Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The hum of the washing machine filled the small laundry room, its vibration echoing against the narrow walls. I leaned forward, trying to reach the tangled sheet deep inside the drum, my soft nightie brushing against the cold metal edge. Just as I tugged harder, the fabric caught tighter, pinning me awkwardly in place. I let out a frustrated sigh, my hair falling over my face. And then I felt him. Warm breath just inches from my neck, the quiet presence that made the air suddenly heavy. His hand brushed past my waist, not hurried, just deliberate, lifting the edge of my nightie as if testing how easily it would slide through his fingers. My heartbeat quickened, a rush of heat crawling up my skin as I froze in that charged silence. I turned slightly, catching his eyes, those familiar, teasing eyes that said everything without a word. The laundry room felt too small now, the hum of the washer a steady drumbeat beneath the rising tension. "What are you doing?" I whispered, my voice barely steady, but my breath betrayed me, fast, shallow, expectant. He didn't answer. Instead, his fingertips traced the soft fabric, his gaze never leaving mine, as though daring me to move, to speak, to stop him. My mind raced, half flustered, half pulled into the gravity of that moment. The world outside that narrow space felt far away. Here, only the quiet thrum of the machine and the growing warmth between us existed. And just as I thought he might step back, he did something I didn't see coming. His hand tightened on the nightie, his lips curved with that mischievous smile I knew too well. What happened next, I wasn't ready for. ChatGPT said. The washing machine's steady hum faded into the background as I straightened up, clutching the loose hem of my nightie where his fingers had just been. My breath still hadn't fully settled. There was a time when moments like this, quiet, sudden, electric, used to happen all the time between us. But lately, they felt rarer, almost accidental, like this one. We'd been married for 5 years now, and in those years, life had a way of wrapping itself around us. Work schedules, late-night calls, dishes waiting in the sink, bills tucked under the fridge magnet, little things that built walls without us noticing. I used to think he didn't look at me the same way anymore. But now, standing here, his gaze burning through the small space between us, I wasn't so sure. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed casually, though his eyes still lingered on me a second too long. "You always rush," he murmured, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "That's why things get stuck." It was a simple tease, but his voice carried a weight I hadn't felt in a while. My fingers fidgeted with the fabric of my nightie, a nervous habit I thought I'd grown out of. "Maybe," I said softly, glancing at him from the corner of my eye. "Or maybe I just needed someone to notice." The silence that followed was sharper than the words. He stepped in slowly, the wooden floor creaking under his weight. His hand brushed past mine, deliberately lingering just long enough for me to catch the warmth of his skin. The old, familiar ache stirred somewhere between us, a mixture of wanting to pull him closer and wanting to ask why it had to feel distant for so long. We hadn't really talked about the little gaps that had grown between us, nights where we turned our backs to each other, mornings where routine replaced warmth. Maybe neither of us wanted to admit that beneath all the love, there were unspoken needs we kept tucking away like forgotten clothes in the drawer. "Do you miss it?" he asked quietly, his voice so low I almost missed it over the hum of the washer. My heart skipped. I didn't ask what it meant. I knew. I swallowed, my throat tight, and turned to face him fully. For the first time in weeks, our eyes held steady contact. "Sometimes," I whispered. He nodded once, slowly, his hand grazing mine again before pulling back, like he wanted to close the distance but wasn't ready to yet. The room felt heavier, the night quieter. Something had cracked open, but neither of us was sure whether to step through or seal it back. And then the washer beeped, breaking the spell. The beep of the washer still echoed faintly when he moved closer, his hand resting on the edge of the machine, trapping me in that narrow space without ever touching me. The room seemed to shrink with his presence, and my pulse thudded in my ears. I could smell his cologne, faint, familiar, a scent I hadn't noticed on him in weeks. "You've been distant lately," he murmured, his voice calm but carrying an edge. Or maybe, distracted. His words caught me off guard, stirring a flush of guilt and something else, something warmer. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, but instead, my lips parted without sound. He studied my face with an intensity that felt like a challenge, his fingers grazing the cold metal just beside my waist. I thought about the nights I stayed longer at work, the messages I didn't reply to right away, the moments I caught myself wondering if he still noticed me the way he used to. And now, here he was, noticing, too much, too suddenly. "You wear this," he said, his eyes lowering briefly to my nightie, "and you think I won't remember how it felt, before everything got so quiet between us?" The way he said it wasn't a compliment, it was a provocation, laced with jealousy and something more dangerous, longing. I swallowed hard, my fingers brushing against his on the edge of the machine by accident, or maybe not. "And what if I wanted you to remember?" I whispered, surprising even myself. His jaw tensed, his eyes darkened just slightly, and for a moment, I thought he might step back. But he didn't. Instead, the air between us grew heavy with the kind of tension that could break in any direction. One word, one breath, one move too close, and everything unspoken might finally spill out. The washer's steady warmth at my side contrasted sharply with the cold rush down my spine. We were teetering at the edge of something, familiar yet forbidden, because it wasn't about the laundry anymore. It was about everything we hadn't said, everything we pretended not to feel. The laundry room felt too quiet now, the kind of quiet that made every breath sound louder than it should. He didn't move away. Instead, he reached past me, pretending to grab the fabric that had caused all the fuss, his arm brushing against mine with an unmistakable deliberation. The space between us disappeared, just air and heat now. I stepped back slightly, but there was nowhere to go, the edge of the washing machine pressed against my hips. His fingers lingered on the fabric for a second too long, and when he finally pulled it free, he didn't hand it over. He held it. His eyes searched mine, not for permission, something deeper, something buried that neither of us had dared to dig up for weeks. "You're trembling," he said softly, almost as if to himself. I opened my mouth to deny it, but my breath betrayed me, quick, uneven, restless. "It's just the room," I muttered, though the warmth had nothing to do with the temperature. He leaned in, close enough for me to feel the faint brush of his shirt against my shoulder. "No," he whispered, "it's not the room." The tension was unbearable now, a string pulled so tight that one wrong move would snap it. His hand lowered, still holding my nightie, still teasing that thin line between familiar safety and dangerous closeness. I could feel his breath on my cheek, my heart pounding hard enough to drown the faint hum of the machines. And then, just as the moment felt ready to tip over, his phone buzzed on the counter. He didn't look at it. Neither did I. But the sound broke the silence like a crack of thunder in still air. He exhaled slowly, the faintest smirk tugging at his lips. "We're not done here," he said, his voice low, steady, like a promise and a warning all at once. The night hung in the air, unfinished, the weight of what hadn't yet happened pressing between us. The room felt heavier than before, the faint buzz of his phone still echoing in the air as if it carried secrets neither of us had dared to voice. His hand still held my nightie loosely, fingers brushing the fabric with an unspoken claim. I could hear my heartbeat thundering in my chest, my breath shallow, my thoughts scattered. Then, with a slow exhale, he finally spoke. "You think I don't see it? The late calls, the sudden smiles when your phone lights up. I've been watching." The words hit harder than I expected, sharp, jealous, aching. My mouth parted, but the truth caught in my throat. There had been no affair, but there had been a thought. A message left unanswered. A moment I never confessed. I felt my cheeks heat, not with guilt alone, but with the strange rush of being seen, really seen. It wasn't like that, I whispered, though even I could hear the weakness in my voice. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming now, his eyes dark and unflinching. Then why does it feel like I'm losing you to someone who isn't even here? That stung because it was real. Not the betrayal he imagined, but the distance I had let grow. And now here we were, so close that every word, every flicker of breath felt dangerous, too dangerous to ignore. His hand, still clutching the nightie, finally let it fall against my side, and instead, his fingers grazed mine, tentative, tense, almost trembling. "Tell me," he said softly, "was it ever him, or was it just what you missed in me?" My chest tightened. The moment twisted, not into the fight I feared, but into something far riskier, the truth between us, bare and waiting. It was never about him, I admitted, barely above a whisper. I just wanted to feel wanted again. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was alive. He leaned in, forehead almost brushing mine, his breath steady but heavy with everything he hadn't said until now. "Then let me fix that," he murmured. Before I could answer, the laundry door creaked open, a voice from the hallway called his name. The spell shattered, but his hand stayed on mine, gripping just enough to promise, this wasn't over. The laundry room felt colder now, though neither of us had moved far. The echo of that voice from the hallway lingered like a ghost, reminding us that the world outside this narrow space was still spinning, waiting, watching. He stepped back finally, his hands slipping from mine, leaving behind a warmth that only made the distance sharper. "You can't just disappear into this house and expect me not to notice," he said, his voice lower now but still tight with emotion. "I've been trying to reach you for months, and tonight, this," he gestured to the nightie still hanging loose between us, "was the first time you even looked at me like that." I swallowed hard, the guilt heavy but mixed with something bitter, resentment for all the words we'd left unsaid until it boiled over like this. "And you think it's just me?" I snapped, my voice breaking in the middle. "Do you know what it's like to feel invisible in your own home? To wonder if the person you love even sees you anymore?" The silence that followed was brutal, but it was real. His shoulders dropped, some of the fire in his gaze dimming into something more human, something that hurt. "Then why didn't you say something?" he asked, almost a whisper now. "Because I was scared," I admitted, my voice trembling. Scared that maybe it wouldn't matter. The tension cracked then, not with anger, but with the weight of truth finally spilling out. He took a step forward again, not to corner me this time, but to close the gap we had both created long before tonight. "It matters," he said firmly, his hand finding mine again, not with force, but with a quiet need that had been buried too long. For a moment, I let myself breathe, really breathe, in that space where confrontation finally turned into something more fragile, understanding. The machines hummed quietly, the night outside still heavy, but the storm between us had started to shift. "This doesn't fix everything," I whispered. "No," he agreed. "But maybe it's a start." His fingers laced with mine, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, it didn't feel like we were standing on opposite sides of the same room. It felt like a decision, messy, raw, but real. The hum of the machines slowly faded into the background, but the weight in the room was no longer heavy, it was softer now, like a storm that had passed, leaving only the scent of rain behind. His hand remained in mine, steady this time, not out of control or demand, but out of choice. I could feel the warmth in his palm, a warmth I hadn't felt in weeks, months, maybe. He exhaled deeply, the tension in his shoulders finally giving way to something gentler. "I don't want us to keep walking around each other like strangers," he said quietly. "Not when all I've ever wanted was you." The words caught me off guard. Not because I hadn't hoped to hear them, but because they sounded raw, unpolished, real. I searched his eyes, finding no games there, no blame, just the flicker of the man I once fell for, the one who could set my heart racing with nothing but a look. "I missed you," I whispered, my thumb brushing across his fingers. More than I knew how to say. He smiled, a small one at first, then deeper, a smile that reached his eyes. Then let's start saying it, even if it's clumsy at first. He stepped closer, the narrow room closing in but in the best way this time. His forehead rested gently against mine, our breaths mingling in the warm air. No grand gestures, no dramatic promises, just a quiet, steady heartbeat that matched my own. I don't need perfect, I murmured. I just need real. This. Us. And in that moment, everything else, the beeping machines, the quiet house, the buzzing phone forgotten on the counter, faded. All that remained was the warmth of his arms as they wrapped around me, the familiar weight of his chin resting against my hair, and the quiet promise of trying again. The night didn't feel broken anymore. It felt like a beginning, unexpected, messy, but ours.